Cursor blinks on a green monochrome terminal. Lines of code race upward, the kind only a handful of people in the world can read. In a cramped bedroom, lit by the hum of a desk lamp, a teenager leans in, heart pounding. He's not chasing a game high score. He's inside the digital nervous system of America's financial power. Somewhere on the other end of that line sits the Federal Reserve, keeper of trillions, foundation of the global economy. One wrong keystroke could close the door forever. One right one could pull it wide open. At 19, Kevin Mitnick is about to do something no one thought possible, and it will change how the world protects its money. Kevin Mitnick didn't look like someone who could rattle the financial backbone of the United States. No hoodie, no sunglasses, no smoke-filled hacker den. Just a skinny 19-year-old from Southern California with a used modem, a sharp mind, and the kind of curiosity that burned through sleep. His real power wasn't some elite machine in a high-security lab. It was his ability to see patterns and people like few others could. He didn't just learn how systems worked, he learned how the people behind them thought, the shortcuts they took, and the mistakes they didn't realize they were making. The 1980s internet wasn't a locked vault. It was an open field, a patchwork of university networks, corporate servers, and government systems strung together with trust and optimism. Banking, research, even national defense were all starting to live inside connected computers, each one just a few commands away if you knew the right path. The bankers and policymakers saw progress. Kevin saw cracks. He wasn't new to exploring them. As a teenager, he'd pulled off pranks that bordered on legendary in hacker circles, breaking into phone company systems, skimming corporate networks. Not to steal money, but to see what was possible. This was before cybersecurity was even a common word. The idea that a kid with a phone line could reach into the heart of the financial system was absurd, until he did it. The first step was never about typing fast. It was about listening. Kevin's method, later called social engineering, was essentially hacking human behavior. Call a help desk, pretend to be an employee who'd forgotten a password, convince a tech worker to reset an account. The easiest way into a secure system was through the people paid to protect it. Somewhere along that chain of calls, Kevin learned something he shouldn't have. A username here, a dial-up number there. The Fed didn't advertise these details, but they didn't hide them well either. Security in those days relied on the idea that no one outside the building would ever try to connect. Kevin connected. The first time his screen lit up with the Federal Reserve's internal prompt, it was almost anticlimactic. No dramatic music, no red warning banners, just a blinking cursor waiting for instructions. The danger was in how normal it all looked. Inside, the network wasn't flashy. It was text menus, transaction logs, routing codes, dry to anyone who didn't understand the stakes. But to Kevin, it was the digital bloodstream of America's money. He could trace transactions from bank to bank, see the schedules for billions moving in and out. And he realized that a few commands could, in theory, reroute those flows entirely. If you picture a Hollywood-style hacker smashing keys to drain accounts, that's not what happened. Kevin didn't touch the balances. He didn't erase records. That wasn't his game. His thrill came from access itself, from seeing the place no outsider was supposed to see. But the risk was clear. If he could get in, so could someone with less self-control. For hours, he navigated the system. Every step he took was like walking across thin ice, aware that one wrong move could set off alarms or lock him out. But no alarms came. The Fed's digital defenses were built for stability, not intrusion detection. The network trusted those who made it inside. That trust was about to vanish. Kevin didn't realize that someone inside the Fed had started to notice unusual activity. It wasn't obvious, just a few commands that didn't match the normal patterns. But in a system that moved billions every day, even small deviations stood out. The internal report climbed fast. By the time it hit the right desk, panic was already building. If a hacker was inside the Federal Reserve, the damage wasn't just about numbers changing on a screen. It was about confidence. Confidence in the banking system, in the dollar, in the idea that the most important financial institution in the world was untouchable. Behind the scenes, investigators began tracing the intrusion. This was before modern digital forensics, so they leaned heavily on the same tactics Kevin used. Talk to people. Ask the right questions. pressure the right contacts. Kevin was careful, but the web around him wasn't airtight. A conversation here, a shared detail there, an old hacking partner who knew too much. The FBI pieced together the trail, and slowly it started pointing toward a teenager in California. When the knock on his door came, it was not casual. Federal agents arrived with the weight of the banking system behind them. The arrest was framed for the media as if they'd caught a terrorist. The story of the hacker who breached America's financial heart ran on national news. Publicly, the Fed insisted that no funds had been stolen, no accounts altered. But behind closed doors, they knew this was a wake-up call. It was the kind of breach that forces an industry to rewrite the rules. And that's exactly what happened. In the months that followed, the banking sector overhauled its security protocols. Multi-layer authentication became standard. Physical separation of critical systems became non-negotiable. Employees were trained to recognize social engineering tricks. Millions were spent on intrusion detection. The Federal Reserve's network was no longer a place where trust came first. For Kevin, the fallout was severe. He faced charges that could have kept him locked up for years. Even after serving time, his name carried a stigma that followed him through life. To law enforcement, he was a high-risk offender. To corporations, he was both a threat and a cautionary tale. But among hackers, his legend exploded. Here was a kid who had done what others only whispered about, reached into the core of the global economy without setting off the kind of destruction that would make it unforgivable. His actions sparked a debate that still lingers in cybersecurity circles. Was he a criminal, pure and simple, or a whistleblower in the purest sense, exposing flaws before someone truly dangerous exploited them? What's undeniable is that his break-in shifted the trajectory of digital security in finance. Before Mitnick, the idea of a hacker breaching the Fed seemed like science fiction. After Mitnick, it was a risk every major bank took seriously. And the irony? Kevin didn't set out to change banking forever. He was chasing the same thing he'd been chasing since he was a kid with a bus pass hacking phone booths: curiosity. That curiosity collided with one of the most powerful institutions in the world, and neither emerged the same. Even now, decades later, the Federal Reserve doesn't discuss the breach publicly. It's buried under layers of security culture. But every password policy, every two-factor prompt, every employee security seminar in the banking world carries a silent echo of that night, a reminder that the walls weren't always this high. Kevin's hack didn't just expose technical flaws, it revealed a human truth. Every system, no matter how fortified, is only as secure as the people who run it. That's the lesson that has kept security experts awake ever since. And for Kevin, this was only the opening act. The chase with the FBI that followed would turn him from a quiet legend into a pop culture icon of hacking. But the Federal Reserve breach remains the moment that changed the rules of the game. Because once a 19-year-old from his bedroom could step into the vaults of America's money, the question was no longer, could it happen? It was, when will it happen again? And the answer would come sooner than anyone expected. Step back a beat. Hold the image of that dark bedroom, the flicker of a terminal, the heartbeat in your ears. That snapshot became legend. A 19-year-old cracking the Federal Reserve. It spread fast because it felt true about our world, that a single curious mind could shake a giant. But the record tells a different story. Mitnick's confirmed targets were companies like DC, Motorola, Nokia, and Sun, not the Fed. The myth grew around real skill and very real fear. The Fed wasn't untouched forever. Years later, internal logs showed dozens of breaches across 2011 to 2015. A UK hacker was even charged with breaking into a Fed system in 2014. And in 2016, the Bangladesh bank heist almost pushed $1 billion through the New York Fed's pipelines before alarms truly rang. Different actors, same weak link. People and process, not just code. So what's the lesson for you? Your money lives on networks stitched together by humans. Two-factor helps, training helps, but vigilance is the real firewall, because every system inherits our habits and our blind spots. Back to that bedroom. Whether the cursor blinks in a dorm, a basement, or a state lab, the stakes haven't changed. Curiosity can harden defenses. Greed can melt them. What do you think is more dangerous today? A lone teen with time to kill, or a well-funded crew with a playbook? drop your take in the comments. If this hooked you, subscribe for more true stories where tech, money, and power collide.